Hi, my name is Marijn and today I will make a little tutorial about how you can use the X-Lite software with the OpenDMX dongle from Entec, which goes from USB to a 5 pins DMX signal. From when I was little, I was always interested in DMX lighting. Just all the lights in the theater that are moving in sync with the music. I found it amazing, so I wanted to do that too. So I gone to a second-hand marketplace and I bought this moving head, this disco ball. By the way, I have two of those. And I bought four of that LED bars, which I'm not going to use in this video, but they are still very nice. So I bought them, but I couldn't do anything with them other than putting them in the demo mode. So I also bought this light controller, which controls the signals over the cable to the lights, which is much better because you have way more control over them, but still not as good as the X-Lite software, where you can program whole light shows in one scene. Before I start with this tutorial, you really need to know some things about what a universe is and what channels are and what the DMX protocol is doing itself. If you already know that, just skip this part of the video. If you don't, please listen to it so you know what's going on. What is a DMX universe and what is a DMX channel? To begin with, DMX is a protocol to control lights. It works by sending instructions over a cable. A DMX universe exists of 512 channels. And you can see it like 512 mailboxes. Each mailbox can hold a value from 0 to 255. So in the universe, each channel is one of those mailboxes. You can send a value to it and then something happens. For example, if a light uses one channel, it might be just a light that can dim. You open or close the slider to make the light shine brighter or less bright. If a light uses 3 channels, for example, it could be for red, green and blue. And you can make any color possible. Every manufacturer does this his own way, so it's not really a universal way of numbering those channels and assigning functions of the lights. So you need to figure that out on your own lights, and for every device it's different. So all 512 channels make one universe, and if you need more than 512 channels, you can add more universes. This is often needed in professional setups, so it's good to know. Okay, with that said, let's start with wiring the setup. First we have USB cable, which is going to the Entec OpenDMX dongle. And as you can see, the output is a 5 pins DMX. Only problem is that I am using 3 pins DMX. So I have a cable that's going from 5 to 3 pins. There's no converter in it, it's just another way of wiring. Okay, I connected the cable to the first light. Now the first light needs to be wired to the second light, and so I make a string of all the lights. As long as they are all connected with each other, it's just working fine. Because the real magic happens in setting the channels, which I will explain in a minute. So now I will wire this light to this light. And as you can see, now it's connected to this light. Also, I have a DMX stopper, which should remove any signals that are not supposed to be there. I don't really needed one after all, because I had some bad signals, but this was not the solution. But just so you know, it does exist, and maybe it would help for you. It's just a DMX connector with a little resistor in it, so I made it myself. So just to give you a little picture of how this works, I will visualize it with this controller. This is the IRA OSO 240B MK2, which is a really nice light controller. It's kind of a old thick thing, but it's still working just fine. So as you can see, I am using the first channel right now, and on this light we can set the channels. I set it to channel 1. Now we have channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And if we go to page B, we also have channel 9, channel 10, channel 11, etc. So, as you can see, channel 1 moves the light. 2 is for the fine tuning. Channel 3 moves the light too, but in another axis. Let's move it to a good position right now. Channel 8 is for the light. Now channel 5 is for the colors in my case. Channel 6 is for the shapes. Channel 7 is for the strobe. And channel 7 is to dim the light. So that's just a little demo. It's different for every device, so you need to look at it yourself if you have some devices. But this is how it works in short. Okay, I think it's time to explain you the first segment of the software. We will come back on this part of the software later, but for now I will show you something. Because, as you can see, disco ball is channel 1 to 7. Moving at left is 8 to 17. And moving at R right is 18 to 72. Now this is moving at R, so I need to set it to channel 18. And now it's set correctly. Now the disco ball was channel 1, so this one is indeed set to channel 1. Now that you know the basics, I think it's time to start explaining the software. So let's start the X-Lite software. Now when you start the software for the first time, or when you need to make a new show, it asks you to select a show folder. A show folder is just a folder where you put all the files with the show. If you make a new show, you need to make a new show folder to put all your files in. I suggest you make a folder in the Documents folder of your PC, but you can make it anywhere you want it. So as you can see, the X-Lite software has 3 tabs right here: Controllers, Layout and Sequencer. And we are going to use them all. No worries, we will start right here. Because the first tab, Controllers, is to add our controller, the NTEC OpenDMX USB controller. So we click Add USB, I've already done that, and then we get something like this. But we need to change some values. The first value is name. I just call it OpenDMX normal. Then we have a few values we can leave as they are. Auto size needs to be turned off. Then we have active, that's okay. Monitor needs to be turned on. Then we have suppress duplicate frames turned off, that's okay. The port, I will come back to that later. Protocol is OpenDMX. There are many protocols, also DMX, but we need OpenDMX. Then the speed is set automatically. And then we have channels, which needs to be set to channel 1, which is totally not true because we have 512 channels, but it's just a little bug in the system. Now, as I said, I would come back to the port. COM3 is it set to, but how do we know what port it is? Now we go to Device Manager, and then we go to COM ports, right here. Then we have this device. But how do I know this is the OpenDMX dongle? Well, as you can see, I plugged the dongle out of my computer and it disappears, and when I plug it back in, it's there again. So we are sure this is port COM3. So we click here on the arrow and then COM3, which is the communication port, something virtual in Windows, to communicate with our dongle. And now we have added our dongle successfully. As you can see right here, the dot is green, and that means that the communication is okay. We need to change the channels because we have 512 channels. But as I said, there is a little bug, so we are doing that after we added our lights. I think it's time to go to the next tab, Layout. What you can do right here is set up all your devices. For example, the disco ball, the moving heads, and the 4 bars I have. We are adding a new light for this tutorial, which is just a DMX General. As you can see, we are here with the DMX button, and then we have a General, a flute light, an area flute, which are those two, a moving head, which is in 3D and has some extra options. Then we have a moving head in 2D, and we have a servo and even a skull, which really scares me. Let's not use that one. Now we have this one, and we need to set some things. As you can see, it's added right here. The first thing to change is the name. For example, I have a extra bar. I add that one. Then the question appears, would you like to save the old name as an alias for this prop? It could be useful. Now, since we didn't make any show yet, we can just click no. Now the question is, how many channels does our device have? Now I will just copy the bars I already have, and those have 6 channels. So let's use that value. We have 6 channels. Now number of fixed channels, I didn't really figure out what this is for, but I will just leave it on 0 and everything works perfectly fine. The question is, what are we doing with the red, green and blue channel? Now we can test those things when we have a light controller like I do, but you can also use the QLC light controller app. I'll show you real quick. And this is the website of QLC light controller. You can control your lights with it, so you can test some functions. I'm sorry for my slow internet, but you can download this software for free. It is completely free. And as you can see, you can just control your lights, you can control fixtures, you don't need it all, but then you can test what function is on what channel, which could be really handy. Okay, let's go back to the X-Lite software and assume you already have those values. So we have our bar right here, and it has 6 channels, for example. The red channel is on channel 2, green is on 3, blue is on 4, the white channel is on 5. And then they ask what controller we want to use. Now, since we are using only one controller, the OpenDMX controller, we click on the name we just made ourselves. If you used another name, it's right here. Okay, so the dongle is selected. Now there are a few things you don't need to fill out. Also this one, it's red, but you don't need to do anything with it. And then we can look to every value, but there's nothing what we really need to change. But there's one exception, the node names, as you can see right here. It could come in handy to change those. So we already set to the software that we have 6 channels. But the first channel is the dimmer. But if you generate the node names, then it uses the information it has already received, which in this case are the colors already. Then we have the dimmer at channel 1, and at channel 6 we have the strobe, for example. Let's click OK, click Save, and that's it. We are going to use those names later. Now you can give this light any position you want, and you can repeat this process for every light you have. And if you're done, just click Save for every light. And then one very important step, because otherwise it won't work. Let's head back to controllers, click on our controller, go to channels and change this value to 512 again. It's just a bug in the system. I don't know why this is, but this is the way it works. So go back to 512. Now the layout is ready. I'll remove this light again because we don't need it. But this is the way you make this. Now let's go back to the sequencer and see what we can do right there. Alright, we are back in the sequencer, and this is the last part of the software, which is using the most time. Because in the sequencer we can program our light show. Now I'll use a light show I already made, but you can make a new scene. Click musical sequence, or if you are not going to use music, you can choose animation. Then you can select a music file. Then select 20 FPS or maybe 30 if you want, but 40 doesn't seem to work really well with this module. And then click on OK a few times. If you want, you can add your own name, email, and of course the name of the song you are going to use. I am going to use this song. It's a really nice song, perfect for a light show. It's amazing. In my case, I will reopen the show. It's just this file, a sequence file. And there we are, boom. So it's not done yet. I just made a little beginning with 2 lights, but I want to show you how I did this. So first we have our song right here, as you can see. But I also have those red lines which are indicating the beats of the music. We can right click on new timing, add timing track, select new timing interval, and then I have a lot of options here. But you may notice that you haven't. There is an option to download a plugin which makes all these options possible. So if you click on that URL, you should be able to download the plugin, but if you're not, because I was not, you can just Google for that plugin and download it from another source. You need to set up the plugin, download it, and when you're done, you can restart Xlights and see that you have all these options. Now, beat and bar tracker seems to be very good, so I used beat and bar tracker to track the beats. You can leave the settings on default, and then we have beats. It's really handy because if I use a new DMX signal, which I could get right here, then I can drag it to here, and as you can see, it will snap between the bars. As you can see, we have our lights right here. For example, the disco ball and the moving hi-hat R that I'm using right now. Everything you do is with this command. I believe you can also use some other commands, like for example this one, but I only use the DMX because it's really handy. So let's edit a new command for the disco ball. And when we click on it, we have some sliders here. And as you can see, right here are the names we assigned to the lights. So I have the dimmer, I have red, orange. Those are going together in my light. We have green, white, blue, purple, the strobe, the rotor, and the auto mode, because it has some built-in disco mode for itself. We can do the same thing for our moving head. So let's add a part to the moving head. We just want it right here. Click on the DMX. And now comes the magic. Click on this light bulb, output to lights. And now you may notice your lights will move into a start position. And as long as this one is selected, you can adjust these sliders and see in real time how your lights are reacting to it. By adjusting these sliders, you say to the channels we assigned that the light needs to do something in this segment of the song. So if we are going to play it, as you can see, in this part of the song we need to play a command. And we can play another command in this part of the song, for example. And you can make it as long as you want. You don't need to use the beat and bar tracker, it's just handy. It's always good to not only look at the visual preview of your song, because there could be some delay. So take some time to play your song once in a while and just start the show and see if everything is in sync. If something is not working, you can click on this palette right here, which means render all, and then it's recalculating everything. That could solve some problems. Okay, so we have a command for this part of the song, but we have just one position of the lights, which is not really nice, because I want the lights to go when it's here, I need the slider to be here, and when it's here, I need the slider to be here. But I want it to be here at the beginning and here at the end. So how are we going to do that? By pen, we click on the arrow, and as you can see, that brings up a new window where you can make some animations. I wanted to start on a value of 50, and I wanted to end to a value of 200, for example. And click OK. And then it's going to go linear from the start point to the end point. You can also use other effects like this one, so it's going to go left and then right, right in this part of the song. Just play with it and make your own things out of it. At the end, you could have a really great light show. I really hope I helped you out with this video. And you now know how you can control your DMX lights with the X-Lite software. To end this video well, I want to show you the first part of the show I made. Enjoy and see you next time.